Home is where connections are made, memories are formed, and ideas are born. And no one knows home better than NFM. Thanks for tuning in to I Am Home, the podcast that goes deeper than trends and dives into what it means to make your house a home.
Well, Tyler Wisecup here from NFM headquarters with our powerful podcast proclaimer, Becca Sudbeck.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Becca. And of course, we have Hilary Woltemath, our visual display general manager.
Hey.
Hi, Hilary. And we're recording this episode on March 12th. And today we have Candi Jones, who's the executive director of Girls Inc. Omaha and our proceed recipient for our NFM's upcoming Women's Month panel. We're going to be talking to her about the incredible work of Girls Inc., her incredible story as well. But before we get to that, let me tell you why we're even doing this podcast. And that's because NFM is more than just your everything home store. We're in the business of improving lifestyles because your home life should be your best life. Learn more at nfm.com. And we're on officially with Candi Jones. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're so excited, thrilled to have you. Honestly, I doing my research and getting ready for this episode, I've just been overwhelmed by your incredible story and the incredible work of Girls Inc. So, but let me introduce you before we kind of jump into everything. Little bio that I have for you. Candi Jones is the executive director of Girls Inc. Omaha, a seasoned leader, a certified executive coach, and trauma specialist as well. She has a diverse background in HR and a long history of actively engaging in community leadership. She's on multiple community outreach boards, and her work has earned dozens of accolades like the National Sexual Violence Resources Center's Visionary Voice Award, which is a huge mouthful. When they presented that, was that like, did they do the whole thing and were they exhausted by the end of it?
I believe they did the acronyms.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, shorten things up a little bit. Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long one. And you have a lot of those, so many of those kind of awards. That's just one of many that you've taken home recently. You're a mother of 3, and really, again, just a truly inspirational human being. This is scratching the surface of your resume here, but it's awesome to have you, and we're excited to kind of jump into it. I have a little intro for Girls Inc., but I was curious if you wanted to kind of, you probably do a much better job than I do introducing Girls Inc. Omaha.
Yeah, so Girls Inc. of Omaha, and we do have a few different facilities that do different work for our girls, but we mainly center on girls ages 5 to 18. And our goal really is to create strong, smart, and bold women. So a lot of our programming and the work that we do is around meeting girls exactly where they are, helping them grow through what they go through, and just become better humans, right? So a lot of our work is centered on that. We also operate a transitional living home. So for our girls aging out of foster care, we want to be their resource and their support. So we're not only working with them when they're 5 years old, but we're also working with them when they're young adults and trying to figure it out. So I call it just like the whole girl experience. We do everything for them just to make sure they feel supported and seen. Yeah.
Whole girl experience.
Whole girl experience.
Yeah.
There's so many things I want to write down to think for later.
I love it. Yes. Yeah.
Well, Candi, getting to research you and again, Girls Inc. in the last couple of weeks has got me again really fired up for this conversation, inspired by your work. And I'd love to start by asking, how did you come to the decision to join Girls Inc. full time? I know that you were asked 3 times to do this job.
Somebody is thinking like she really said that. Yes, I do. Yeah, and here's the thing. I say this by saying I'm exactly where I should be.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can make decisions the way that I did with a lot of intentionality and a lot of breathing and a lot of deep thought and prayer, if that's your thing, then you feel so much better about your decisions. So yeah, my work at Girls Inc. wasn't really what I aspired to do, but it clearly is what I was meant to do. So yeah, I worked at Mutual of Omaha for many years. Shout out to Moo. And I left to go to a Community Health Development Partners and did some work there as the head of HR. I did my own thing for a while, kind of doing coaching with Candi, which is a trauma-informed care service that I offer to businesses and people who have been through similar experiences myself. And then when I got the call from dear friends on the board and that work through Mutual, it was just this kind of like, no, I'm not doing that, because nonprofit's hard.
Yes.
Very difficult work, and so the second time I know was a little softer, but it was still no, and then the third time I told people this story, it was more of me just really saying, all right, like there's a reason this keeps happening. I'm in a very interesting place in my life where it truly is a choice. which is really cool. And so I just kind of stayed up one night and cried and thought and wrote and journaled and just decided, okay. And I feel like my grandmother, who passed recently, a few years ago, was like, if not you, then who? She used to always say that. If not you, then who? So I just kind of let her speak to me, and I accept it. And I've never made a more just, I don't know, intentional and real decision in my life. And so it's been good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's clear you have a remarkable career and personal story. And we covered just a tiny fraction of that with the intro, but I was wondering if you could tell us about how your experience, including overcoming sexual trauma, shaped your approach to leadership and advocacy.
Yeah, I think what my experiences have taught me is that in order for you to do anything well, there's a healing that has to happen. And so for those of us who I did too would walk around as if nothing happened and I was okay and show up well and do all the things, there was still an internal battle that I was fighting to figure out how to heal from the experiences I had. And so what really got me there, and I do this just to bring some clarity to it, is I was in my office and I was doing some work with someone. And so I've always been kind of a trusted space for people. People tend to tell me everything, right? Yeah. And so my mother used to call me Mini Oprah growing up. She's like, they just tell you everything. I'm like, yeah. So anyway, I was sitting in my office and a colleague had come in and let me know that her daughter had been sexually abused on college campus. So I was so quick, right, to offer all the resources and all the support and all the help. And I was helping her through it, and have your daughter call me and I will support her. And again, this was not necessarily the context of my job, but it was the person people knew me to be. So it wasn't uncommon for people to tell me these things. But for whatever reason, that day in particular, I remember I shut my office door and I remember collapsing. And I remember thinking to myself, like, do you realize you're giving advice that you are not taking? So it was a very real moment of like, you cannot do this work without healing and going through your own experience. So that's what I did. And so I got really intentional about my own healing, working on myself. And through that process, what I tell people is that everything I learn, I teach. So it's a very organic way of me saying, it's not about me being an expert. It's just me saying, like, in order to be a leader, I have to be willing to be super vulnerable and share every experience along the way. And I think it's just helped me in my entire career, just those relationships that I've built that are very genuine. That opportunity to just share from a real place and let people hear my story has made other people feel comfortable. And so to me, that's leadership. Always has been, right? It's not this stoic version of you, but it's this real version of you that people want to follow. So that's kind of how I go into my work.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And good advice in any aspect, really, or any situation.
Yeah. Heal first.
Yeah.
Heal first. Yep.
Well, speaking of like being vulnerable, bringing your whole self into leadership roles, Girls Inc., wonderful organization. Again, all the research that I'm doing for this interview today, I've just been blown away by the work that you guys do. And your programs focus on three things. I think you talked about this in the intro: the body, mind, and spirit.
Yes.
And breaking it down, you've got that strong health component, which is like sports and fitness and food education, health access as well. You've got the smart educated, which is more of your STEM, your reading, your homework. And then lastly, we've got like that bold independent, which is community and leadership and life skills, which is like just all the best things, really, when I'm looking at a list of things.
Yep.
Do you have some members who focus on one category more than the others, and kind of walk us through how you go through that? Is it about trying to make sure you want to have all those things, because it does help make you just a well-rounded person? But I'm curious, like, is that a struggle ever with your members?
Absolutely. I mean, you're engaging with the youth, right? So it's never easy, because I think all of us can think about when we were children and when we thought we knew everything. It's what it is, right? So there's a lot of convincing and helping our girls understand, like, this is important. So to your point, our programs are split up by age level. So we try to obviously make sure that everything we offer the girls is age appropriate, but it's everything. So if it's information around sexual education, if it's information around their bodies, if it's information around dating and violence, we create it based on where our girls are, in their ages. So that helps. And so we're able to deliver everything, but I'll call it in bite-sized chunks, right? So you get some of our girls who are like, I don't want to go I don't want to go to a doctor, or I don't want to go, to the science lab, right? No, it's boring, and I'm always like, just try it. we're always like, just try it, and it's amazing because every single time, usually they come back like, wow, right? So I just believe awareness is a thing. Like, it's just super important for our girls, especially the girls we serve. We're dealing with, Black and brown babies from area codes that, according to data, are the least served and the most vulnerable, right? I actually am trying to get us to see the narrative of also brilliance and beauty and amazing people come from those same area codes. And so those girls that we know, again, statistically, there's a lot of bad data out there that bad data meaning could be true, right? That talks about the experiences our girls are having. We know some of that. And so, but we also want them to see beyond that. So a lot of our programming is around, we get it. It's hard. And there are things you're dealing with that you didn't create, that systems created, that we're still fighting against. So our programming is geared towards that, to helping them see themselves, as stronger than what any number is telling us, about them. So we cater our programming to the girls, their ages, and what they're experiencing. So if they come to us and say, hey, I'm having a situation at home, we will find something to help them through it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we love the Omaha Girls Inc. story, of course. And we know it started in 1975 with 6 girls in a church basement. And now you serve more than 1,000, ranging in age from 5 to 18 in 2 different centers in North and South Omaha. And there's the STEM program in Lincoln. Like you said, majority Black and brown girls, number of different situations at home, many single parent home situations. You've got a very healthy board and volunteer group, but a pretty lean leadership staff. There's 3 or 4 of you. Is that correct? And could you tell us more about the team involved at Girls Inc.?
Yeah, I mean, again, I am very fortunate to have a group of people that really care about the work. So as with any nonprofit, trying to make sure you have the staff that can really handle the volume of different work we get per day is a struggle, right? But we have a very good team, strong team that's committed to the work. And also, just in my time at Girls Inc., I've been rethinking just the way we do the work and how we're set up. And maybe we do need more people, right? That can help us be more effective. But I stand on the shoulders of giants. I mean, to your point, 1975, brilliant women have been before me. Who I succeeded was amazing, Miss Roberta. So I'm very fortunate to have a foundation that's as strong as it is. I'm also very fortunate to be able to recreate the wheel, right? And decide kind of how this is going to look different in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's the exciting part. So yeah, we're still thinking about our structure and what makes sense for the girls we serve and how do we get more. And so I'm sure there's more changes to come, but it'll be exciting.
Yeah. Could you maybe talk a little bit more about the centers typically work, like Tyler's wife works, and you've also worked for Boy Scouts as well too, right?
Yeah. I used to work at the Boy Scouts. My framing for like these kinds of organizations is like, it's like once or twice a week. And I'm just curious, like from Girls Inc., like in practice, is it something that's happening like on a weekly level, a daily level? What does it kind of look like for the girls involved?
Yeah. So our structure, and a lot of people don't know this, we've worked really hard to keep costs low for the community, but still be able to provide high quality. And that's a difficult balance, right? So we are open every day, except for a few days that we're off for training and holidays. But our girls are there. We pick them up. We provide transportation. So we pick up from area public schools. We bring them to the center. We make sure they eat. We serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus snacks. We bring them to our facility. We offer the programming, again, a meal. And during the school year, they're there until 7 p.m. So from, 3:30 or 4 when they're getting out of school to around 7, we're available. Wow. During the summer, we're there all day. So for example, this is spring break week for a lot of our girls. We're open all day for our community. So our girls are there sometimes as early as 7:30 and we have them until 6 or 7. So again, we are full service. And a lot of people don't know that because it's not the typical model.
Right.
And we do that for a very low price point. I mean, we do that for an average of $100 a year. And nothing else is charged except for field trip fees. So part of funding and keeping us going is to support that model that we know works, but we also know it's very difficult with limited funding, to get it going. But I think it's important. And I think some of the things we're considering in terms of how do we make sure, our girls have a place to land no matter what, requires us to rethink a lot of things. But our hours right now are really about community and making sure, the girls have a place to go
Yeah.
in the summer. So we have a very strong model, but also, again, just thinking about that in terms of the price point and what we're offering is incredible, and we want to keep doing it.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of price point, one of the things that jumped out to me during reading the history that I'm hugely curious about is this 2.3 million donation that you got in 2018, result of a 10-year-long bet between Warren Buffett and Protégé Partners. And Warren won this bet, and I didn't do more research. I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how that came about, what the bet was, or like, I feel like this is one of those things where obviously our connection to Berkshire and FM, we're vastly curious about.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I've heard different versions of that story and I don't know which is accurate. So I'm not going to tell it because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the full story about it. But what I will say, just because it's important, is the support that, the Buffetts, this organization and others have given us to allow us to be sustainable by doing bets and auctions and all kinds of stuff that they've done throughout the years, and that those proceeds coming back to us has been what has kept us since 1975. So I don't know all the ins and outs of that one, but I do know that that's not uncommon, and it's really cool that we can that people are willing to set up things like that and give that kind of money to our organization to keep us sustainable. So I don't know all the ins and outs of that one.
That's a mystery.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a, I have no clue. Maybe he'll come on and tell us one day.
Right?
Would that be? Yeah.
Would that be cool? Yeah.
Well, I'd love to highlight some of the great work that Girls Inc. Omaha is doing. And I have to thank Vicki Glenn from our CSR team here at NFM for kind of keying me into this great STEM program that you've got going on called Eureka. It's actually pretty unique from what I can tell. It's a structured 5-year program starting in 8th grade, and it's got monthly events as well as like a summer component. And I love the stories coming out of Eureka. So I was so many girls really going to college with a passion for STEM because of the program that you're offering. Can you tell me about any of maybe your favorite stories hearing girls go through this program?
Oh my goodness. The best one thus far is Dr. Gordon, who is running our clinic next to Girls Inc., was a Girls Inc. girl. And so to see her having gone through the program, having excelled as wonderfully as she has, and to now come back and be our medical director of the facility is like one of the best. There are others, but from a STEM perspective, I thought that was just an incredible tale of like what it could look like for our girls to be able to like become doctors, and God, that's amazing.
And that's pretty recent too. That
just a month or two ago. So it's been amazing. That actually was the moment when I realized how important programs like Eureka are. And we talked about Morgan, who won the Inspire Award, who runs that program.
I was going to say that they were all talking about that program in the nominations. But I mean, I think that's just a testament too to like how much impact you had on her to come back and want to probably still be involved in the organization. I mean, she probably really sees, how that probably completely changed the path of her life.
Absolutely. And I know I wasn't part of the team at that point when she was going through, but the model again and the foundation and the legacy of the work shows, I mean, that's clear that if done well, we can have girls doing incredible things. So our STEM program specifically, does target like the sciences and the maths and those STEM related fields. And one of the things we told ourselves was, okay, again, exposure and awareness, right? Like we know that a lot of this stems from our girls aren't exposed to these fields. They're not given an opportunity to walk in these shoes and see if it's even for them, right? I think the assumption has been, there's not enough Black and brown people in these fields. True. And what are we doing to correct that, right? So part of it is if we are looking at girls at this age that are still very, very much open to what their lives could look like, and we say, okay, let's just go to a few camps and let you see a Dr. Gordon and other people who are doing this work that look exactly like you. Like, let's be empowered and influenced. And it's working, right? The model shows it's working. And so I think we obviously keep building. We mentioned we have the Lincoln office that we're trying to grow that also does, the STEM work and Eureka program, and it's getting a lot of traction there. So ideally, I'd love to see STEM across the state, right? Especially Black and brown women in STEM. I love to see Girls Inc. run programs across the state similar to that, where we're really exposing our girls to those fields. I mean, it matters. We need them. But again, they don't know what they don't know. So unless we make an intentional effort to go get them, we're going to still see the same problem. So I think we are making a huge difference there.
That's amazing. So in February, your volunteer team, the Girlfriends Guild, hosted Girls Night Out, which is a major fundraiser for you every single year. Includes a night of shopping, cocktails, dinner, comedy. Can you tell us how the event was this year?
Yeah. So actually, we're going to push it out only because with my transition and some of all that we've done. But I will tell you, watch for announcements because we're going to have some fun time. It's not too late.
Okay.
We might do like a mini one or a bigger one at the end of the year. But the first of all, shout out to our guild and all the amazing work they do. So if anyone's interested, this group of powerhouses really just come together to help us plan events like Girls Night Out and support the day-to-day work. So for example, we have, little things like we have a store for our girls called Snackalicious. And, we make it really fun. And there's different things that the girls can, buy toys and do good work and hand in report cards, right? So the guild helps us in keeping those sort of things running and programs like that. And Girls Night Out, which is truly just that. It's just a night out of some shopping and some fun and a really cool comic that comes, a comedian that comes in and just really kind of gives us a good time. So watch for more information on that. We will definitely have another one coming up and you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Do any preview on like comics, or are you still kind of working?
We're still working through it. We got some good ones in the
last year was a really great one.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. We haven't decided yet, but watch.
Okay.
Keep watching.
Yeah. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be
I know,
watching
me
out for
too.
more.
I'm glad I didn't miss it.
Yeah, you didn't miss it. It's still happening.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, another related event that we were really impressed by was the Lunch for Girls fundraising luncheon. And wondering if you could preview this year's guest. We know it's a who's who event, and you've had Barack and Michelle Obama, Bill and Hillary Clinton, Billie Jean King, Stacey Abrams, and more. Any
you see how they trying to get stuff out of me? So I will not share who yet, but that is coming out very, very soon. What I will say is that this particular guest that we are having is iconic. She is legendary. She has written some incredible work. And I think those who have followed, I'll say this, Black and brown culture, poetry, writing will definitely be excited.
I have an idea
about this speaker.
Okay.
So I'll have to let you know if I'm
Let me know if you're right. Yeah. So our event will be in August. We over the next few weeks we'll start to market, and maybe I'll bring me back when we announce it and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
It'll be
I'm
fun.
sold
It'll be
already.
fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So definitely watch for that. We want to have, a sold out event. I think, again, keeping in mind that our Lunch for the Girls and the people we're bringing in, even though they're wonderful names, they're also people very much aligned to the work that we do and very supportive of Girls Inc. and our girls and our mission. So this is an exciting event, not just for the fundraising, but just to see our girls be in the spotlight and do their thing and shine is what I'm most excited about. So definitely watch for more information for that. And it will be in later August when we host the event. Okay. But we'll start talking about it in the next few weeks. Yeah.
Next few weeks.
I know. You gotta wait. Wait. I know. It'll be fun. It'll be great.
Is there a standout favorite from like past alum of the guests that you've had at this event?
Oh gosh, not for me. I mean, I've always gone even before I took on this role. I've always gone and just been impressed by just the level of talent that has come through the door. So I can't really say there's one. Now I will say this particular one is probably one of my personal favorites, just because it's someone I've watched growing up.
Oh wow!
So I will say that everyone's been amazing, but this particular person coming in August is like, I'm a fangirl.
Yeah,
Candi, you're killing us.
I know.
I'm
doing it on
purpose.
The anticipation I know. You'll have to wait.
Well, one of the many things that I love about Girls Inc. that we've talked about today is just all these programs. The outreach does really truly feel endless, and it feels like there's something for everybody. Do you have any favorite stories from the mentoring program? Because I know this is another, again, arm of all the incredible work that Girls Inc. does.
Yeah. Here's what's really cool about our mentoring program. We have mentors who have literally been with the girls from the time they were 5 until now 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. So I think that speaks volumes for the commitment people have, not only to the girls, but to Girls Inc. in general. How we've made it a space in an environment where it's comfortable for people to mentor, right? There's no pressure. We want people to come as they are. Like, there's no perfection here. These girls just need a soft place to land. So if you are someone who cares enough, and I always tell people, like, our mentoring program too is really based on, not prestige, not title, but like, where's your heart for our girls? And if you have lived experiences that you are ashamed of, don't be, because we want that. Like, we want our girls to hear what not to do just as much as we want them to hear what to do. Right. So we offer that to mentors. Like, come as you are, because if you have a heart to give, then we know. And I mean, we do all the standard, background checks and things like that to make sure they're safe, but that's not what it is. It's more about, don't think you have to be in a certain space in your life to give back. And so I think that's why our mentoring program has been so successful, because people know, and we make it easy, right? We'll make sure you have things to do, because sometimes it's that awkwardness that I don't know this person, I don't know how to do this, right? What do I say? We give you all that. So Hallie, who runs our program, is amazing and just sits down with our mentors and creates spaces for them to do arts and crafts and go to basketball games and, spend time together on the weekend. So it's just a very real way of mentoring without that pressure. So it's been, I think all of it has been amazing. But what I really like to highlight are the people who have done it from the time the girls have been babies till young adults, right? It's amazing. So, and we have quite a few stories like that.
Yeah. I love that. We talked a little bit about the Girls Inc. clinic, and Dr. Denai, is that how you Gordon coming back as an alum and now being at the clinic. And this is just making sure that everyone understands this is an on-site clinic for at the location. Which location is that?
Catherine Fletcher. So it's right next door to the Catherine Fletcher location.
Yeah. And again, I think the idea that you have this, it's an arm of your whole girl approach. Can you talk about the impact of having an on-site clinic and what that means to all the girls and also just the community at large?
Yeah. Well, Dr. Gordon, Dr. Andrea, who's over the clinic, both are Black women. And I think it's important to say that because so much representation gets lost, right? And so I want to name that having Black women as doctors running a clinic where we serve Black and brown girls and staff is, like, first of all, like, top tier, because we have someone in a position that understands and can relate in a different way. And again, it never changes going to anyone for care, but there's no different from someone finding someone that they can relate to. We have to make those efforts as well. And so that's, like, first and foremost, knowing that staff really understands what our girls are going through. Second, their hours have changed recently to be a full service all day clinic. At one point they were part-time, part-time hours, working just evenings, right? And then the decision with Dr. Gordon and Dr. Andrew was to make this a full-time, full service clinic, which really changes the game. And I think a lot of people don't know that. Also important to note, it's not just for Girls Ain't Girls. It's for the entire community, right? So we're going to do our part, both as Girls Inc. partners and with the with the medical center, to make sure people understand that. Bring your family, bring everyone. Like, we want you to have care, quality care. And part of our work too is to say, we'll be partnering with the clinic for a lot of different things, but we also know sometimes, our girls get into situations where they need care. And to know that we have that space to literally walk next door and say, this person needs you, is, like, amazing. But again, recognizing health disparities and all the things happening in our community. We have a facility, right? And there are many amazing facilities in our city. Our ask is people just take advantage of it, right? Just take care of ourselves and do better with that, period, as a community. So wonderful that we have it right there on site for our girls. The message I really want to send is that I really want to see more Black and brown families in general take better care of themselves. Yeah, it's just important. I mean, for everyone, but especially in a community where we know the disparities they exist.
Yeah. And just make, that easy access. Like,
it's right there.
Yes. I mean, that makes a huge difference. So Girls Inc. doesn't only support the youth. Can you discuss the Protégé House program and its role in supporting women transitioning to the independent housing? I think you mentioned it briefly when we first started talking. But especially, like, those coming from the foster care system, sex trafficking, domestic violence situations.
Protégé House was started like right before COVID, if I'm right.
Okay.
So it's been a little bit of a transition, getting to the transition of a
Yeah,
transitional
right.
living home,
Right.
because there's so much involved. So what I'm doing now is, again, in addition to kind of rethinking the org structure, also rethinking how Protégé House runs and works and what services we can provide to our girls. We have amazing community partners that are willing to come in and do different things like financial literacy. But I also said there's so many things that our girls need that we don't necessarily talk about. And so things such as, if you're aging out of foster care and you maybe have never experienced living on your own before, what does that look like? What things should I be buying? What does it look like to pay rent every month? Like what, there's so many things that have to be taught. And that's not to say or put anyone from foster care in any sort of a box or assume that every experience is the same. We know not to do that. That is just to be real about what this particular group of women may be facing that are different from what others may have faced. So we're just trying to make sure that our girls have access to everything they need at the Protégé House. So bringing in partners to help them think through every aspect of their lives, because ideally, once they leave Protégé House, we want them to leave well and able to take care of themselves. So there's a lot of work and a lot of thinking that goes into what does that look like, but knowing too that we also are dealing with girls who may be coming from trafficking and domestic violence and sexual trauma. What resources are we giving them again to heal through that? Because otherwise we can give them all the other stuff. But if they get out there and they haven't dealt with that, it doesn't matter. So I'm really thinking about what does that look like, open to community suggestions on what that looks like, because again, I think it takes the community to really make these things work. But definitely in it, just thinking about what I can do, what our program can do to make sure, again, we're really giving the girls and the young women what they need to be successful beyond Protégé House.
Yeah, certainly.
Still thinking through it, but excited because, again, it's a huge opportunity to impact girls and young women beyond, what we do already.
Right.
Yeah.
So digging a little bit deeper maybe, and we're on a podcast about all things home.
Yeah.
In the context of the program, like the Protégé House, can you tell us about what the concept of home means to you?
That's a good one. I grew up with a single mom for the most part. I have an amazing, amazing father/stepfather. We don't use step. He's just my father. And I say this, he's battling stage 4 cancer. He went in for testing today just to get a screening to see where things are. So keep him lifted. So I sit with that in my heart today because he's there now. And I thought to myself, when you said that, home to me is love no matter what. Like, we don't have anymore, I don't think. We shouldn't anyway. This like set definition of what a family should look like.
Right.
I think we know now that that's just not realistic, right? But love in a home changes everything, whatever that home looks like, right? And so we are in a very interesting space as a family where we are just really leaning into love and a lot of positive energy. And that changes the way I see everything because, again, he's fighting. Which then is forcing us to fight and look at life differently. But for me, home is love. Home is, that's that space that is always there, even as you get out in the world and do your thing, right? Like I know I can go to my mama, right? I know I can call my dad, So again, that's home, and again, that can look different for everyone. So for Girls Inc., I'm gonna circle it back. We're home to some of these girls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we owe them more.
Yeah.
So home to me is just love in a place you feel safe.
That's really beautifully put.
Yeah.
In
that's what I feel.
Holding your father in our hearts today.
Thank you.
Sending all the good vibes.
Yeah, they know me. They know I like to work through stuff, you know, and working through it is this and creating this opportunity to just talk and be present. So thank you for for lifting them up.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking pretty specifically about some of the individual programs. I wonder if you can speak more broadly about how you've seen your organization's work make a difference. Is there a moment or memory that stands out?
I believe so. Some of the things we talk about in nonprofit spaces, especially like as leaders, is how difficult it is to translate our outcomes because we're tied to data, right? And it's important to be able to show what you've done. Like that's how you get funded. That's how people believe in you, right? Nonprofit is based on community. So how are we showing the community that we're actually doing the work? For me, I would say part of this is, and the success stories are, how many girls are we seeing and how are they leaving us? So I would like us to look at our experience at Girls Inc. and just nonprofits in general as what's the situation when they walk in and what's the situation when they walk out? What have we done to impact their lives in any way? Even if it's just, hey, they came in super shy and didn't want to talk much. They're leaving super shy, but they know how to talk, right? Right. So I'm not saying they have to be like super extroverted like me, but we gave them something that they can use in life. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's for me, it's more of like, the success stories I see every day are probably not what I would write in a grant.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just not, but if I know this young lady never really said anything and now she runs up to me every day, I create a safety for her. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or they were always afraid to get up and speak in public and now they're speaking at our luncheon, So to me, those are the stories that we definitely need to do a better job of capturing, but it's so much deeper than just the numbers. It's the numbers and what are those experiences, that our girls are leaving with? So I think trying to figure out, and again, I know I'm not the only one that's trying to figure this out, like how do we really tell those stories so that people can start thinking beyond how many girls did you see, but how many girls did you see that did this or did this,
right.
So
creating
it's
like the growth in them
the real
too.
story. Yeah, that's the real work, but sometimes that gets missed underneath all the other things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 1,000 stories
yes.
right, of all every single girl that you impact. So trying to ask a question where you capture just one, I'm sure that's
hard. Yeah, I don't know that, but I mean, I've seen so many things, and I've seen, us, a girl aging out of foster care has a place to live, and I've seen, girls who are talking about their traumas and their sexual traumas at home get support and help and counseling. So, I mean, those are the stories, but they're not always the stories we can share. So rather than just focus on what I know is easier to write about, I actually like to talk about the things that maybe you wouldn't know if we didn't tell you.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm curious if your early experiences working with Girls Inc. Were they, I mean, you've only been with the organization 8-ish, 9-ish months?
6 months.
6 months. There we go.
Pro.
Even,
I'm a vet.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious if your early experiences are different than what you expected them to be.
Oh, that's so great. I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine at lunch yesterday. I've been doing executive coaching for so long, and much of it, I still do, is around like leadership, right? So I work with so many nonprofit leaders in our community. I know what they're dealing with, right? And so that was why my no was so strong the first couple of times. I'm like, no, absolutely not. I just talked to so-and-so, But what I realized having taken this role is there's a perspective that I was able to bring that has helped me in such a major way. And so I know that this is the time for me, right? It wouldn't have been 5-10 years ago because I wouldn't have had hundreds of other leaders I've talked to that have given me their perspective and my own coaching to help them move through their perspectives, right? So it does not to say I got to figure it out. I do not, but it does give me a lens of calmness. It does help me kind of move through situations knowing that there's something on the other side of it. We just got to get through this, right? It's a moment. And the staff has seen that too, that I just come in with a different level of like, I get it. It's crazy right now and we'll be okay, right? Like it'll be fine. So I think the work I've done has prepared me for this. The trauma prepared me for this. My experiences prepared me for this. My community prepared me for this. And so I encourage people, especially leaders, like do your own work on you before you assume what leadership is, right? Because you will find quickly that it's not what you thought it was. And so when people tell me, now I want to be a leader, I go, why? Why do you want to do that? Like, give me an answer, right? And if you can't tell me, then that might mean you need to rethink it, right? Really think about what are you actually going in to lead? What are you going to do? So for me, it was, I'm here to create legacy. I'm not here to do it forever. I'm here to create a next generation of Black and brown girls that will very easily carry this torch. That's what I'm here to do. That's it. And once I know I've done that, I'm going to go sit in a rocking chair somewhere way far. And I'm just going to rock myself to sleep every night, right? Like I have a vision. Like I'm going to finally sit down. I'm not ready yet. But that's the goal. So I don't even know if I answered the question. I went everywhere. But I think that's where I'm at. Like it's more about understanding what my purpose is and knowing that every situation I've been through prepared me for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect answer.
Yeah.
I'm curious if there, you said the idea of like making sure somebody has a good answer to why you want to take on leadership.
Yeah.
What are the best answers that you typically hear?
When someone can articulate similar to what I did, like it's not about anything other than, right? There's a this is my answer. It's and it doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be drawn out, but I'm doing this because of my experiences and the things that I've done, and I want to give back in this way, right? There's a story there. Those are the best answers I've gotten. Not, I'm doing it because I need more money. I get it. Not that great money, but I get it. I understand. Want more money. I understand that. More money, more problems. Isn't that a thing? But I do it for more money, or I do it for the prestige, or I do it for, whatever it is. And I'm like, all of those can be valid to you. I mean, and we've seen it push leaders that we don't want to be pushed in pretty high positions. So all of that can be valid and be a motivator. But ideally, the answer that I would be looking for when I ask that question is like, but what is it to you?
Right.
Like, why are you really doing this? And when you can answer that, I think you're a step closer to doing this work from a good place, right? But that's the answer. That's the question most people don't want to ask, because it does require you to go a little deeper and think about some things that you probably haven't healed from.
It goes back to what you were saying in the beginning, right? Of being vulnerable and being able to kind of be real about where you're coming from and what you're hoping to accomplish. So I see that a lot. Speaking of like areas of opportunity, you were talking about the idea of like, what could we do from an organizational perspective to make improvements, the things that you're hoping for Protégé House. Can you talk to me about what opportunities you're excited about within Girls Inc. and what areas are you looking at for improvement of the organization overall?
Yeah, I'm excited about, I guess, the less tangible things, but obviously the tangible things, growing this organization, taking it even further, impacting even more girls, both in our North and South Omaha locations, Lincoln, heck, all across the country if we could, right? When we have a lot of national affiliates that do this work, so Girls Inc. is under that national umbrella. It's amazing to be part of the network that's doing this work across the country. So expanding our reach in Nebraska would be great. But also just, I would like to see us really be a space that the community knows our girls are safe and can come and can be a part of it. Also, I want to make sure other organizations feel supported by Girls Inc. So changing the narrative of what people say versus what they do, meaning we should all collaborate. What does that actually look like? Let's actually do it. You know what I mean? So I think working really hard to be where I can be, to show up where I can show up, so I can show that, yes, Girls Inc. has work that we're trying to do. Also, we support the work that you're trying to do, because it all matters. So if I can at least be a small part of what that looks like in action, to say as a leader, I have an organization to run and we have a lot of responsibilities and girls we're trying to impact. You also have an organization you're running and a lot of people you're trying to impact. It all works together, because some of the people you're seeing are the communities we're seeing, are the parents we need to support, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? So really creating that collaboration is important to me. And making Girls Inc. be a big part of that. Like we knew that we could help resource and support organizations in a real way, and we're going to, so making our space available to people, opening our doors to other community organizations that might need a gym or might need, those are things that I'm really thinking about. And then I guess the other thing is just really finding, changing kind of the landscape of what people assume, again, about the area codes of the girls we serve, and really thinking about possibility and hope, right? And not getting so stuck on what we think the numbers say and what we think the data shows, but more on what I see every day, which is a lot of hope and dignity and potential, right? So let's focus on that, because if we focus on that, so will they, right?
Yeah.
So that's important. I just have very big dreams about community and kind of what I think we could be if we do this work a little differently. Yeah.
I think that's special.
I'm curious, what's like, I know you said you wanted to grow the program and reach more girls. Like, what is is there a certain barrier to reaching more people?
I think it's just tough with youth, right? We have so many wonderful youth serving organizations. So I think a lot of them are going somewhere.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So, which is great.
Yes.
I just think it's being very intentional about when we get them, what do we do with them, to prepare them for the world? So one of the ideas I have, and I wouldn't necessarily consider it a barrier, but it is something the community can probably support, is there's a lot of talk about youth reform. And we know the data shows that Black and brown girls are suspended and expelled at much higher rates. And so how do we fix that? What does that look like? Because there's a foundational cause for that, but there's also, what are you doing to make sure it doesn't keep happening?
Right.
And so some of the thoughts we're having and in communication with others about is that, okay, when a girl gets suspended, mandate her to come to us. Mandate it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you have concerned parents because they have to work.
Right.
And you have a child who's just kind of like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm
who are you
suspended.
punishing?
What's the punishment here?
Yeah.
Right. So part of that is really rethinking, like, how can Girls Inc. serve in that capacity? Because we're already getting the girls. What does it look like to say, send them to us?
Yeah.
We will make sure we work with them, make sure their homework gets done, make sure they're ready to go back to school. Right. And that to me is the work, not kick you out.
Right.
I mean, that's giving them the safe place to go that they need.
They need it.
Yes.
So we're working on stuff like that. So again, thinking about our bigger, broader Girls Inc., it is really like we are trying to serve the whole girl. The whole girl are not just the ones who aren't getting in trouble.
Right.
The whole girl is especially the ones that might be getting in a little trouble, so that we can try to turn things around. Yeah.
Great question. I love that. Is there anything that you wish that more people knew about Girls Inc. and the issues that you're trying to solve? I feel like we've kind of touched on a really good one just recently with the barriers question, but is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you're like, I wish people knew about this?
I want people to know that Girls Inc. has heart and a lot of commitment to do good work. And I understand a lot of the narrative around not just Girls Inc., but nonprofits in general. And some of the comments and the things that people have said that I've heard, not towards me, but just towards the system, right? I just want people to know that Girls Inc. is really, really intentional about transforming the way we look at nonprofit, the way we look at leadership in nonprofit, and the way we look at the outcomes of nonprofit. So I want people to know it's not just a Girls Inc. thing, but it is truly a community change that we're looking for to really support this work. So that's more my own personal. As a leader, I have an opportunity and a responsibility to change that, and I'm going to. But for Girls Inc. specifically, to understand that the work we do is really hard. I mean, it really is, and it's hard because we care. It wouldn't be if we just chose to come through and treat it like, we get the girls, we send them home, right? But it's more to it than that for us.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to really support them, it just takes so much from an emotional and mental and physical standpoint to really support them like they need to be.
Yeah, to do it well.
Yeah.
Right. So I think understand that we are in a really beautiful time of just reflection and transformation and figuring out who we can be in our community. But we are going to really work hard so that people can truly see Girls Inc. as, that beacon of hope for our girls. And I think we're already doing that slowly but surely. I've seen so much good in the last 6 months. So I just tell people to keep watching and keep supporting us. Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the end of our time. I have a couple questions left for you.
Yeah.
The first one is, what do you remember most about the house that you grew up in?
I'll use my granny girl. I called her my granny girl, my grandma's home, because it felt like no matter what we were going through in our lives, that was always the place we'd get back to, right? We know we can go back to grandma's house, right? So I would say what I remember most about that, my grandmother used to make me read everything. And I mean, literally, she would sit a dictionary in front of me and go, read the dictionary and then write 6 sentences. And I used to be so mad at her. Oh, I'd be so mad. And I'm writing and I'm fussing and I'm going off in my little 8-year-old head or whatever. But what I remember about that environment is my grandmother taught me dignity at a very young age. And I didn't realize that until this age. But I know now that my home was dignified and we cared, and we didn't have much, but it was never about that. My grandmother made sure, and my mother worked really, really hard, 2-3 jobs at times to provide for me. She didn't want to rely on anyone else, right? And she never did. So there was never a system support, even though she could have done that. She didn't want to. She wanted me to see her working and taking care of us. So I think back now, and I just remember a home of just these determined, hardworking women who made it work, right? We had a dinner on that table every day, and my grandmother would make me set the table and put the napkin over here and the fork over there. All the things I would complain about. And I'm like, why does she make me do these things? But now I look back and I'm like, she was just showing me respect and dignity and honor at a very young age, and I didn't realize it. But I think that's what I remember the most, just those little things, making me read, setting the table, eating together as a family. Like, didn't matter what we were dealing with, watching Saturday Night Live, like just little things. Like my grandmother loved Saturday Night Live. I still love it to this day. There'd be times she'd be like, what is happening? You know, it's changed over the years. But we still watched it together with our popcorn. So again, I think those are things I'll never forget that I'm reflecting on now, that I'm like, I realized home in that house was where I learned so much of what I teach today. And I complained about it so much. But that's what I remember. I remember moments like that. Yeah.
What a great my final question for you. Reflecting on your own experiences, you know, we've got Women's Month this month. What advice would you give to young girls struggling with self-esteem, with beauty standards, with anything that they may be having trouble with in their life?
It'll get better. I can't tell you it's not going to happen, because it's going to happen. I can't tell you life won't be hard, because there'll be hard moments. I can't tell you won't deal with normal things. I think we cannot paint that picture, right? What we should paint, though, is the example of overcoming those things so that a girl never loses hope, right? Because I think so much of my experiences with trauma and domestic violence and other things, I always had hope that things would get better, right? Even if I was in it, like I still felt like, gosh, there's got to be something on the other side of this, right? There's no way I was just going through this for nothing. Like, that's what I would always think. But again, that was taught to me to push through and to find hope and to find that rainbow. So helping other people understand that there's always that, especially girls. Like, I get you're struggling with how you look today. I mean, the same things people used to talk about me for, my lips, my lower half, and all the other parts of a woman, are things people pay for right now. Like, and I'm like, y'all didn't pay me, you know? So I say all that jokingly, but seriously, like, those are the things I'm like, so beauty standards are so subjective and so not real. Yet you have to let a child, especially a young girl, because of everything around, she's going to experience a little of that, right? But how do we set her up to understand you're going to look up one day and all that's going to be for naught. Like, it won't even matter, you know? So I think teaching that look, it's okay. There's something on the other side. It's okay. There's something on the other side. Will help our girls understand, like, okay, reality, life happens. And we have some things happen in our country right now that really make it hard to be a girl, right? But helping them know what it's like to fight. Helping them know they don't have, they're not powerless, right? So it's
voiceless.
That's the work, right? I need you to understand you have a voice in this. You don't have to just sit back and take anything. I think is the work we need to do with our girls. Like, help them find their voice, help them advocate, help them understand what it's like to go to Capitol, make sure they're voting. Like, you know, I didn't understand how important those things were until I got older and further along in my career. So if I can teach that now to 5 and 6 year olds, I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah.
I mean, that helps support the mission of Girls Inc. Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Candi, for joining us. This has been such a great conversation. You're such a storyteller, and your energy is infectious.
Thank you all for having me.
Really a pleasure. How can people stay connected with you or with Girls Inc.?
Yeah, please join our website. We are in the process of revamping our website. So if you get into some technical issues, that's okay. You can email and call us at any time. We will start doing more newsletters and communications with community. So, you know, join us for a visit. Like, just pop into a location and ask us for a tour. We absolutely love showing our work for real so that people can really see it. But again, website, LinkedIn, Facebook, All Girls Inc. of Omaha. Join us there. I'm Candace Charmy online. I use my middle name. Some people say stuff about that, but it is what it is. That is what I go by. So please follow me. Again, another thing that I try to do is just promote just positive energy and good thoughts. And again, I know people like to follow, and I air quote leaders. Just follow the message. You know, just follow the message and share it. That's what I ask.
It's a great,
great
advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you to Hilary, to Becca, to Scott. And if you want to learn more about us, NFM, head over to nfm.com, where we have more information about our history, Women's Month activities that we've got going on, and everything else. We'll be back again soon with another episode. Till then, remember, home is what you make it.
Thanks for joining us today for I Am Home with Tyler Weisskopf, Hilary Woltemath, and Becca Sudbeck. No one knows home quite like NFM. So if you'd like more information on home design at NFM, please check out nfm.com and leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice.